on, let's go, boy!
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is CJ here, back with 3BG at the movies, and going to be talking about the new movie, Joker, Folie à Deux. Pretty much the second movie in the Joker franchise, coming to us from Todd Phillips, and this is a bit of an unusual movie. Um, Full disclosure for myself, you know, I, I went to the first Joker movie with trepidations because the movie was definitely different than the typical sort of comic book movie that I was thinking it was going to be, especially when it comes to having a movie about the Joker. And, given that it was treated like an Elseworld movie, it was definitely a different take on the character, even though it didn't feel like it was necessarily a movie structured about the character that we know from the comics. But, at the end of the day, when the dust settled, I just accepted the movie for what it is and just judged the movie for what was presented. And for what the first movie presented, it was interesting, but ultimately, like, I wasn't necessarily falling over myself about it. I thought it was well acted. Cinematography was great, and everything else was great about it. It's just I wasn't over the moon with it. So, you know, but for a movie, the way it came out of being, at least to me in my eyes, I felt it was sort of a one-off movie, so to speak. At least that's how the movie came off. So when that movie did very well at the box office, typical of what you get from studios when a movie does really well, boom, they decide to greenlight a sequel. And I felt some way because I felt with how the first movie ended, you didn't really need to do a sequel. You didn't. You didn't really need to do a sequel because whatever the message that you were telling in your first movie was fine, and it didn't really open itself up to do a sequel. But here we are with the sequel to the first movie, and I gotta be honest, the movie overall isn't that great. And 99.9% of it has to do with the story. The acting in this movie is great. Lady Gaga definitely steals the movie when she's in the film. Um, Joaquin Phoenix is great as Arthur Flick. Catherine Kenner's in the movie as his lawyer. Zazie Beetz comes back as his neighbor. Steve Coogan plays this sort of personality, TV personality that interviews Arthur and stuff. We even get Harry Lautley as Harvey Dent. That's kind of this movie's version of, Harvey Dent, which this movie overall kind of gives. You get a sort of different version of Arkham Asylum. You get obviously Harvey Dent, but you also kind of give this version of Gotham. That's very much like New York. So great acting that you're getting out of this movie. Great visuals. The cinematography and stuff is great. Um, the music in the movie is fine. I would say that's probably the 0.1% of the movie that kind of falters because tying into the story being very, very not great. Um, this movie is a musical. And one of the biggest issues that I have is the fact that the music in this film, in terms of it transitioning from the serious moments to the musical, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it kind of takes you out because personally, I don't think Todd Phillips does a good job of really doing musicals in the way that we typically see in movies now that are actual musicals. Because when you have a movie that's an actual musical, when you're transitioning from a scene going into a character singing and stuff, it's very seamless. And there are scenes in this Joker film where the transitions are very seamless and it works, and other times it doesn't. And especially when it gets to when Arthur is on trial. And that juxtaposition of like the musical and then the courtroom drama, it doesn't really meld too well. And that's even with respect to the actors doing a really good job with singing and stuff. Again, especially with Lady Gaga, it's just it doesn't hit really well as a musical. But then that goes into the actual story of the movie itself. And one of my biggest issues with it is the fact that it feels like the movie is trying to push a message on bucking against. It's like the movie's trying to make a commentary on, how people in the movie and also us as the audience outside of the movie watching the movie took to that film. And it's like this second film is sort of commentary on that. And on that level, the movie doesn't really do a good job of that because it just feels like it's trying to do, see guys, we got a message, the stuff. And I get what they're trying to do. Arthur's character, he's basically trying to distance himself on the idea of being the Joker. And I see what they were going for. And it's just by the time you get to the end of the movie and the story runs its course, it doesn't land the way that I think Phillips was trying to go for. And I would even go so far as to say, in fact, that the way this movie ends, it actually negates a lot of what the first movie was doing, and not in a good way. And I think it really shows that this film this film did not do a good job of justifying itself as a sequel. It just felt like a cash grab. Like, hey, we made $1 billion plus on our first film. Let's do a second film. We're gonna, run it all to the bank. And I just don't feel this movie is hitting the way it should. And that's really what it boils down to. And it's unfortunate too, because, me and the guys, we were talking about this film before going to the screener on what this movie, hoping that this movie wasn't going to be what we thought it was. And then to watch the movie and it end up being what we knew it was going to be, it's a shame because I think I saw potential of what it could be. It's just the sum of its parts doesn't really land very well. So yeah, to be honest, I can't really necessarily recommend this movie. It's a smooth 4 out of 10 personally. I'm not going to be snarky about it in terms of like really dogging the movie out. I just think for how great the acting is and how good the movie looks and stuff, it's the story and them trying to juxtaposition the drama and the musical. Those elements just doesn't work for this movie like it probably could have. And I think if they had just stuck to just being a regular dramatic film to tell this story of Arthur and the juxtaposition of the Joker personality that he had, I think you probably could have had a very regular movie that would have been interesting enough to watch. And I think by virtue of trying to add in the musical element, it takes away the bite that it could have had. And honestly, it really doubles down on the fact that this, we should never have gotten a sequel in the first place, to be honest. So, yeah, 4 out of 10. I honestly can't really recommend you go out and see it, especially particularly with how the movie ends, because it's a doozy. It is a doozy. So, yeah, with that in mind, I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.